Welcome to another section, pressure vessels. For the exam point of view, we have to discuss cylindrical as well as spherical. For descriptive examination in engineering surveys, there will be a combination of cylindrical and spherical vessel design will be there. So for the current sake of our objective, we consider only these two, cylindrical and spherical. We can classify this according to its thickness. There is a two classification for spherical or cylindrical pressure vessel, that is thick and thin. A pressure vessel is said to be a thin vessel if its ratio of its inner diameter to the thickness value is greater than 15, then that pressure vessel is considered to be thin. Otherwise, it will be considered as a thick one. So thickness, we will take this one, and inner diameter will be this one. We will start this session with the thin cylindrical shell stress analysis. There are three kinds of stresses in a thin cylindrical shell when it is subjected to external loading or internal loading. So first one is longitudinal stress. It is denoted by sigma L value, and hoop stress or circumferential stress is represented by sigma h, and radius stress sigma r value. This radius stress is negligible for the case of thin pressure vessels. So only longitudinal stress and hoop stress we consider for the thin cylindrical shell stress analysis. So longitudinal stress we can discuss. So this is a cylinder cross section we are discussing along the longitudinal direction. So it's have a length L value, length L and a diameter D. Then its thickness is T value, small t. Let P be the internal pressure of the fluid. So the pressure will act, if we take a cross section for this cylinder, pressure will act in this direction. So definitely the longitudinal stress will be developed in this direction in order to oppose or withstand this internal pressure. So we can say if the internal pressure is applied, longitudinal stress developed will be, so sigma will be developed like this. The bursting force we can find out as pressure into area of that particular cylinder. So P into pi d square by 4 will be the bursting force. This will be resisted by the longitudinal stress. So we know that the sigma L, that is resting along this longitudinal direction. So if we take the another view, so sigma stress will be developed at this point. Okay. So if we take this much area, the resisting stress will be developed on this cross-sectional area. So we can say the resisting force will be sigma L into 2 pi d into thickness value. So pi get cancel. We can find out expression for sigma L. D get cancel. So sigma L will be equal to P d divided by 4 into T. So that will be the expression for sigma L. So while considering sigma L, it's a plane where there is no shear stress. Since the sigma L is normal, we can say sigma L will be the principal stress at that particular cross section. One more point you have to remember that since this pressure is internal, the longitudinal stress developed is tensile in nature. While if the pressure is applied on the external side, then definitely the longitudinal stress becomes compressive in nature. So keep note this condition. Due to internal pressure, longitudinal stress developed will be in tensile nature. For external pressure, longitudinal stress will be compressive in nature. And the expression for sigma L is PD divided by 2T value. So another one, that's a hoop stress we are going to discuss. So here the load bearing area that going to be the circumferential portion. So this much portion have length L value and a thickness T. So definitely the total area bearing the load about the stress will be corresponding to this cross-sectional area. That can be found out as a 2 times L into T. So into corresponding sigma H value will be equal to bursting force. Bursting force definitely the pressure into area. So pressure acting is internal. So net pressure acting, so this is the curved cross section I am discussing. Net pressure acting will be the product of pressure with the area of this much length. Because if we resolve this force at a particular small area, this pressure into area can be resolved as a force value. Some component will be horizontal and some will be vertical. So same symmetrical point here also we can resolve corresponding force into horizontal and vertical. So these two horizontal components will get cancelled. So the rest of the value is only this vertical component. So sum of this value is equivalent to pressure into corresponding area. So corresponding area we can say D into L will be the total area. Definitely sigma H LL get cancelled. Sigma H will be TPD divided by 2T. So this is the hoop stress. While coming to the radial stress, that can be neglected for a thin cylinder. So for a longitudinal stress, it is given by PD divided by 4T, and hoop stress is given by PD divided by 2T. So we already discussed that. Same as that of longitudinal stress, hoop stress is acting on this particular plane where there is no shear stress. So we can say sigma H or hoop stress is a principal stress for that particular plane. Since sigma H value is greater than sigma L value, we can say sigma H has a major principal stress, and sigma L going to be the minor principal stress value. Okay, you have to keep in mind. So if we consider a small curved element at this cylinder or the circumference or the peripheral side of this cylinder, so we can say the longitudinal stress that will be developed in this direction and the circumferential will be developed along this direction, or the hoop stress. It's a condition. So we know that these two are the principal stresses. So definitely the maximum shear stress will act in 45 degree to the principal stresses. These two are making a 90 degree. Definitely we can say the diagonal side 45 degree, making 45 degree will be the plane where the maximum shear stress will be developed. From the Mohr circle idea, we know that tau max will be equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 2 divided by 2, where sigma 1 sigma 2 are the principal stresses. So here the major principal stress is nothing but the hoop stress. So sigma H minus sigma L divided by 2. So we can substitute the value PD divided by 2T minus PD divided by 4T divided by 2. So we can say the maximum shear stress will be equal to PD divided by 8T value. So this is a value. But one more thing you have to remember, the absolute maximum value, because here we actually neglect the sigma R value. That means sigma R goes to 0. So tau max absolute, that always find out with the maximum principal stress minus the minimum principal stress divided by 2. So that answer will go to PD divided by 2T divided by 2 is nothing but PD divided by 4T value. So you have to remember maximum, absolute maximum will be PD by 4T value. So now we can discuss the strain in cylindrical shell. So as I draw before, if there is a small rectangle or a cubical element, we can pick. This will be the loading condition. Sigma L longitudinal stress will be in this direction, and hoop stress will be in this direction. And there is one more stress, sigma R, that's a radial stress. We just neglect that value into 0. So if we draw a three-dimensional view for this element, this is the situation. So we can resemble with the here. The hoop stress will be like this, and sigma longitudinal stress will be in this direction, and at this direction radial stress will be there. That we neglect to 0. Now we will consider first the major principal strain, that is the strain produced because of major principal stress, that is hoop strain. So hoop strain we are going to discuss. So hoop strain, that's a strain produced along this hoop stress acting. So at that direction we can say epsilon h, that is going to be, there's a direct stress acting in the hoop stress, sigma h divided by is a Young's modulus if the strain corresponding to sigma h. But there is a lateral strain produced because of the sigma l. So sigma l, there is tensile nature, so we can say it will oppose the strain again in the direction of sigma h. So minus sigma L divided by E into mu, Poisson's ratio. So this will be the strain corresponding along the direction, sigma h divided by E minus mu into sigma L divided by E value. Suppose we substitute the values corresponding sigma h and sigma L, we will get the expression for epsilon h as like this. So epsilon h, that going to be, if we can take PD divided by 4TE in the outside, so 2 minus mu will be the corresponding answer. So hoop strain is nothing but the circumferential strain. It will try to increase or change the circumference value. So we can say this circumferential strain sigma h can be taken as change in circumference divided by original circumference value. So if the change in value is delta d diameter, pi delta d will be the change in circumference, and the previous circumference will be pi d value. So pi get cancelled, we will get the delta d divided by d value. Definitely change in diameter can be find out using this formula by equating this one, PD divided by 4TE into 2 minus mu value. So if we cross multiply, delta d will be equal to PD square divided by 4 times thickness into X modulus 2 minus mu value. Next one, that is a longitudinal strain, which will result in change in length value. So that particular strain can be taken as sigma L divided by Young's modulus minus mu into sigma h minus E value. So substituting the value of corresponding longitudinal stress and hoop stress, we will get expression this value. If we take common PD divided by 4TE value, we will get 1 minus 2 into mu value. So change in length divided by original length, that going to be the longitudinal strain. So PD divided by 4TE 1 minus 2 mu. So delta L is equal to, we can cross multiply that value, PDL divided by 4TE into 1 minus 2 mu value. So next thing we are to discuss volumetric strain for a cylindrical shell. So for a cylinder, the volume can be calculated as pi d square into its height value, length. So the change in volume, we can take the derivative, that is to variable d diameter as well as length. So that going to be derivative of first function, that is pi into 2dl plus corresponding pi d square into delta L value. Right? In between delta d will be there. So this will be the total derivative for this function. If we take the volumetric strain delta V divided by V value, we will get the expression pi 2d del d L plus pi d square del L divided by pi d square L value. So while cancelling the terms, we will get 2 times delta d divided by d plus delta L divided by L. So we can say that is epsilon d plus epsilon L value. So we know the expression for corresponding circumferential strain and the longitudinal strain. If we substitute the value, so it is not necessary to by heart this equation, just to understand what's the concept. So total volumetric strain will be double the circumferential strain plus longitudinal strain. In some examination, the internal fluid which is filled in the cylinder or pressure vessel can be compressible. In such condition, we have to consider the volumetric strain or volumetric change in fluid compression also. So at that case, total strain or total volumetric strain will be sum of the elastic strain because of pressure of the pressure vessel, as well as the volumetric strain developed in the fluid also. So fluid volumetric strain we can find out minus P divided by K into V value, where K is the bulk modulus, V is the total volume value. Strain for a strain only minus P divided by K, that is the pressure divided by bulk modulus. Now come to the analysis of thin spheres. Here the blue lines corresponding to the pressure, internal pressure acting on the shells, and the red arrows gives the representation for hoop stress value. So here, because of symmetricity, sigma h will be equal to sigma L. So the expression for sigma h can be found out by applying or by considering the equilibrium of bursting force. The bursting force definitely pressure into corresponding area pi d square divided by 4, that will be bared in this cross section. So that can be found out as a sigma h into pi d, that going to the circumference into thickness value. So sigma h value or sigma L value can be found out by cancelling this PD divided by 4T value. So this is equal to the longitudinal stress. There is no differentiation between sigma h and sigma L value. So you have to keep note that since there is no shear stress acting on the plane, sigma h and sigma L will be the corresponding principal stresses acting on that plane. So it's a kind of hydrostatic loading. Both the principal stresses are same in magnitude. So the horizontal, longitudinal or hoop strain, that can be find out as the considering any one of the four stresses, sigma h by E minus mu into sigma L divided by E. Since both are same in magnitude, PD divided by 4E into 1 minus BO is going to be the longitudinal or hoop strain produced in the spherical shell. And the volumetric strain you can find out same as before, delta V by V, that going to be corresponding change in volume. 4 by 3 pi r cube is going to be the volume. So change in value 3 r square delta r value divided by 4 by 3 pi r cube value. So 4 by 3 will get cancelled, r cube r square get cancelled. So you will 3 times delta r divided by r value. Substituting the previous value, we will get 3 PD divided by 4 E into 1 minus mu going to be the corresponding volumetric strain. If we consider the fluid as a compressible one, we have to consider the volumetric change for the fluid, P minus P by K also. It's not necessary, but you have to remember this condition. So in practical application, long cylinders are fabricated using some riveting or some riveted condition. So some rivets are applied for the joining process. So if the rivet is introduced, some strength decrement will develop. So in such condition, sigma h value is calculated as PD divided by 2 times mu L value, which is nothing but the corresponding efficiency of rivet in longitudinal direction, and the corresponding sigma L value, that is given by PD divided by 4T mu C, where mu C is the efficiency in the circumferential joints. At some situations, there will be combination of cylindrical as well as spherical shells. So in such condition, some important thing you have to remember. Definitely the hoop stress developed in the cylindrical shell, that will be PD divided by 2T, and corresponding longitudinal stress developed in the corresponding cylindrical shell will be PD divided by 4T value. Where in the case of spherical portion, the hoop stress and longitudinal will be same as that of PD divided by 4T value. So you have to remember that in this kind of combination, the stress distribution along the body or this shell will be different. In the spherical, it will be 4 PD divided by 4T, but in the cylindrical, this value will be different. In such condition, we have to discuss some conditions. Some problem will ask in like that. If what is a thickness ratio, if the same stress is developed around the hoop stress are developed in the whole body, same such condition, we have the knowledge, hoop stress in the corresponding cylindrical shell will be PD divided by 2T, where in the case of spherical shell that will be PD divided by 4T. So while considering the ratio, corresponding ratio, TC divided by TS, if it's taking that will be going to 2. Some other condition that thickness of the cylinder for no distortion at junction. The junction point, that is the cylindrical portion, get united with the spherical body. So if there is no distortion, definitely the strain developed in the cylindrical as well as spherical should be same. So we know that the corresponding distortion will be developed in the circumferential direction. Definitely sigma h of cylinder, that is not sigma, epsilon h of cylinder, that will be equal to epsilon h of spherical body. So PD divided by 4TC 2 minus mu, that should be equal to PD divided by 4TS 1 minus mu s will be the condition. So while considering all these terms of the same pressure, diameter, all thing we consider, we will get the ratio of TC divided by TS, that goes to be 2 minus mu divided by 1 minus mu value. So you just keep in mind. So analysis of thick cylinder, that will be discussed in the